So starting Tuesday, Israel has renewed its aerial attacks in Gaza. The Ministry of Health in Gaza says more than 400 Palestinians have died in day one of these aerial strikes. There was a ceasefire, a temporary one that was agreed to between both sides. It lasted for a little under 2 months, but now there is renewed hostilities. Let's try and make sense of this by speaking to Ambassador Reuben Azar, Israeli ambassador to India, for the first interaction after this renewed increase of hostilities. First of all, Ambassador, please tell our viewers, why are we seeing renewed hostilities? Why are we seeing these air attacks again after about 6 to 8 weeks of a ceasefire?
Thank you, Zaka. It's good to be back. We basically were left with no choice. We tried to negotiate a continuation of the ceasefire. The Americans came with proposals. We accepted them. Unfortunately, Hamas has rejected them multiple times. And we were having too much of a longer period without our hostages. We had no choice but to renew military pressure. And we actually took the opportunity to take out very senior terrorists of the Hamas organization. And we're going to continue until either they come back to the table, release hostages, agree to surrender power in the Gaza Strip, or we'll continue pressure.
But Ambassador, how would you then respond to concerns that there are in the international community? Our viewers would be concerned as well, that it is Israel that is breaking the ceasefire and going back to hostilities and not Hamas. How would you respond to that?
Well, I have to remind everybody that we committed for a temporary ceasefire of 42 days. Mm-hmm. When these 42 days ended, we gave a prolongation and tried to get to a prolonged ceasefire in return for hostages. Hamas basically refused to the proposals of Envoy Witkoff. We have to make clear, look, if we are really concerned about the Palestinian population, we have to get hope for these people. Hope will come with reconstruction, with aid, when Hamas is not there, because nobody in the international community is going to agree to, assist the Gaza Strip while this terrorist organization is holding its grip there. And let's remember how they are doing this. They are basically sequestrating the aid that is coming in and using it, selling it to the population in order to earn their living out of it. So actually, it's not only that Hamas is holding our hostages, still 59 out of 254 they started with. We recovered 195. They are holding hostage the Palestinian people, and they are holding hostage basically the entire international community.
What about the lives of those 59 Israeli hostages? I mean, now that the attacks have renewed, Hamas could go about killing these hostages.
Hamas could go about killing them from the first day. And we told them, and we warned them that if they do harm any of our hostages, they are going to pay a very dear price. For them, the hostages are important because they want to extort concessions out of us. But we are not going to agree to surrender to terrorism by relinquishing our request and our policy of getting the Gaza Strip out of Hamas government. We have to create a situation in which we get back to decency, living in peace with our neighbors. This cannot happen when you have a radical organization that is controlling the Gaza Strip.
So the question also would be then, you've had this 15, 16 months of this war now. The stated objective was to destroy Hamas. That has not been achieved yet?
Well, we have decimated very, very forcefully most of the military capabilities of Hamas. So they are no longer capable of firing thousands of rockets at Israel. They don't have the army they had before. Okay. What they have done is that basically they took out their uniform, they stay in power. So this is impossible. So either we achieve our objectives diplomatically, namely bringing our hostages and making sure that Hamas cannot rearm and regroup and remain the government there, or we'll have to achieve it militarily.
So what is Israel's plan then for a post-Hamas Gaza? I mean, are you floating any plans out there to the Americans or to the Qataris or to anyone else?
There have been conversations for months with different stakeholders, mainly the Americans, but also others. And what we want to create is a situation in which we can build on cooperation with the local population, with families, with companies that are willing to take the burden. They are terrorized by Hamas. So anybody so far that tried to create a challenge or create an alternative authority of Hamas was actually liquidated by Hamas in a very brutal way. So we are left with no choice. Either they agree to leave, at least the top brass of Hamas, to leave Gaza, and we are willing to secure that, or that we will have to continue doing what we do.
But the top brass of Hamas has already been eliminated, a large number of them. Daif has been eliminated. Ismail Haniyeh has been eliminated. Right. How many more are you going to eliminate to get to the point where you can say, okay, now we can stop the war?
Right. So, look, the tactic of the IDF so far has been raiding into the Gaza Strip. We might get to a situation in which we have no choice but taking the territory permanently, okay? And then relinquishing it to an authority that will replace Hamas in the post-conflict situation. We would prefer to refrain from that because it bears a cost. We are also aware of the tragic costs of this conflict, not only for Israel, also for the Palestinian people. So we are doing the minimum that we can in order to reduce the necessity to use military force. But here, really, Hamas is leaving us without any choice.
But when you say the only option that you'll have, that you're forced to take that land permanently, what may that mean for long-standing, the whole business of the two-state solution and so on and so forth?
It's very clear that we don't want to rule the Gaza Strip. And we left the Gaza Strip in 2005 with the hope we'll be able to create stability there. And what happened is that Hamas took advantage of the international assistance and the input that we gave into the Gaza Strip in order to build this war machine against us. So we won't allow that to happen again. That means that we might need to enter into the Gaza Strip, take over the Gaza Strip in entirety, and then after it is cleaned from Hamas, then the entire international community can come and play a role. We won't stay there forever.
But would that also involve what President Trump calls making Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, no right to return for the Palestinians, or is that something different that you envisage?
Look, I think that what Trump brings is new thinking, okay? We've seen what came out from the Arab League last week. It's a statement that basically legitimizes the continuation of the status quo. So we know that our neighbors don't want Hamas to live in the Gaza Strip. They just don't want to say publicly that they legitimize what we're doing. But nobody in our neighborhood, neither the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Gulf countries, they want to see Hamas staying there. The only power that is going to fight Hamas is Israel. We don't have other stakeholders in the region that are willing to take that job from us, that are willing to fight terrorism, that are ready to spend blood, spill blood in order to defend the Palestinian people. So we have to defend ourselves. We have to do the job. Nobody is going to do it for us. But we were hoping that after all the pressure we put, Hamas will understand that they are undermining the future of the Palestinian people, and they will take a step back.
So how long is this new objective going to take to achieve? Because, again, what we're seeing is the resumption of hostilities after a brief period of ceasefire.
This may take time. There are basically two options now. One option is that Hamas comes forward and said, you know what, we got the message, we are going to agree to disarm.
Do you think that will happen?
Well, this might happen at some point. It depends. Look, we have achieved some major achievements here. While we have been decimating the military capability of Hamas, we've been able to bring back 195 hostages. This was only the result of our military pressure. Okay? They wouldn't have volunteered to bring back our hostages in a situation in which we wouldn't have attacked them. So we cannot be naive here. We might need to use more force. We don't know how much is going to be necessitated, but if we are left with no choice and they are not going to get a step back, you might see a situation in which this military operation will be prolonged and Israel will have to take back territory.
Okay. We will leave it at that. Thank you very much, Ambassador Azar, for joining us. Ambassador Reuben Azar from Israel, giving us his justification or his perspective, let's say, for why there's been renewed hostilities now between Israel and Hamas. And of course, the big headline that he shared with us as well, that if Hamas does not come forth and say that they want to put an end to these hostilities, then Israel will have no option but to perhaps go in and take and hold territory, even if it is for a brief period of time, before Hamas can be flushed out.